In the previous classes, we saw about derivation of LMTD for parallel flow counter flow. Also, we saw about effectiveness of parallel flow heat exchanger. And we saw the relation for counter flow heat exchanger. We did not derive this equation, but the derivation has been given to you in the PPT. So just go through that derivation and let me know if any doubt is there. Did anyone go through the derivation? Any one of you? I'll take that as a no. So go through the derivation and let me know if any doubt is there in this derivation. The derivation for counter flow is also similar to that of parallel flow effectiveness. If any doubt will be there, just let me know. Now, these are the two relations which we will be getting for both the cases. Effectiveness of parallel flow heat exchanger, that is given by 1 minus exponential minus NTU multiplied by 1 plus R whole divided by 1 plus R. Now, NTU is given by UA divided by C min. Sorry, NTU is equal to UA divided by C minimum. Can anyone tell me what is this R called? What is this R value?
C, no, sir.
Yeah, it is capital C or it is R. In some books, you will be seeing that as capital C. In some books, it will be R. So what is this R called as? Anyone? You people remember the relation, yes or no?
Capacity ratio, sir.
Good. This is called as capacity ratio. R is called as capacity ratio. And R is equal to what? How do we define capacity ratio?
C min by.
It is C minimum by C maximum. This is the definition for capacity
Yes,
ratio.
sir.
So you need to remember these two terms, that what is NTU equal to, what is this R equal to. Even if you forget, it will be mentioned in the data handbook that NTU is equal to UA by C min and capital C is equal to C min by C max. In the data handbook, this R will be given as capital C. That is nothing but capacity ratio. Now, this was the general effectiveness formula for parallel flow and counter flow heat exchanger. We are going to see some special cases for parallel flow and counter flow. So first special case is when a condenser or an evaporator has been given to us. So suppose we are considering the example of a condenser. In condenser, what are we going to have? We will have a hot fluid. The hot fluid will be changing its phase. So vapor will be entering and liquid will be coming out. The temperature for it is not going to change. The cold fluid, it will be flowing like this, and the temperature for the cold fluid will be increasing. So say TC1 is the inlet temperature and TC2 is the outlet temperature. For the hot fluid, TH1 might be the inlet temperature and TH1 will be the outlet temperature as well. Any doubt in this part? Okay. So here we can say that the rate of heat transfer capital Q, this will be given by capital C Tc2 minus Tc1. This is the heat gained by the cold body. Similarly, if we want to find out heat gained by the hot body, for that we cannot use the relation Q is equal to CH TH1 minus TH1. We cannot use this particular relation. Can we use it? Yes, no? Okay, we cannot use this relation to find out the rate of heat transfer because the heat which is being absorbed by the body, that is not sensible heat. Sorry, the heat which is being lost by the body, that is not sensible heat, it is latent heat. So this relation cannot be used to find out rate of heat transfer, but we can use this relation to find out what will be heat capacity for the hot fluid. So if we want to find out the heat capacity for the hot fluid, we can say that this CH value is equal to Q divided by TH1 minus TH1, and TH1 minus TH1 is nothing but 0. So can you tell me what will be CH value for this case?
Not defined.
not defined was till class 10th. Now you will be calling that as something divided by 0. What is it equal to? Is it not defined or is it infinity? There's a difference between two.
Infinity.
Okay. So Q divided by 0, that is equal to infinity. Here we get that the heat capacity for the hot fluid, that is equal to infinite in case of condenser. Similarly, if I am talking about a evaporator, so in an evaporator, what is going to happen? One of the fluids will be entering like this. Say it is entering in liquid state and is coming out in vapor form. The other fluid will be losing heat continuously. So here the temperature is TH1 and here the temperature is TH2. For the fluid which is changing its phase, for the fluid which is evaporating, the temperature is going to remain constant. So here the inlet temperature can be TC1, outlet temperature will also be TC1. In this case also we can say that this Q value will be equal to capital CH, TH1 minus TH2, TH1 minus TH2. Similarly, we could write capital Q is equal to capital CC, TC1 minus TC1. This relation cannot be used to find out the rate of heat transfer, but it can be used to find out heat capacity. So we can say that heat capacity capital C here will be equal to Q divided by 0. And in this case, heat capacity for the cold fluid, that is going to be infinity. Any doubt in this part? Anyone? Okay. So here we get that whenever we are using a condenser or whenever we are using an evaporator, for one of the fluids, the heat capacity value is equal to infinite. So can we say that for both the cases, the value of Cmax will be infinity? Yes or no? Because no value will be greater than infinity. So can we say that Cmax value for both the cases is going to be infinite? Okay. So here what we get is for the cases of condenser and evaporator, this evaporator we can also call that as a boiler. So for the cases of condenser and evaporator, we get that Cmax value is equal to infinity. If Cmax is equal to infinity, the capacity ratio capital R, that is equal to Cmin by Cmax, or it can be written as C minimum divided by infinity, which is nothing but 0. Can we write like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here we get that the value of capacity ratio R, that is equal to 0 whenever we are using a condenser or a evaporator. So since R is equal to 0, we will see what is the effectiveness of a parallel flow condenser evaporator or a counter flow condenser evaporator. So for parallel flow, this was the relation. Put R is equal to 0. R is equal to 0 means this term will be gone, and here also this term will be gone. And this gives us it is equal to 1 minus exponential minus NTU is nothing but e to the power minus NTU. This is what exponential means. Do not get confused with exponential. This term means 1 minus e to the power minus NTU, whole divided by 1. Is this part clear to all? Yes, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Similarly,
Yes,
for a counter flow heat exchanger, if we will put R value is equal to 0, here this term is gone, here this term is gone, and also this R term will be equal to 0. 0 multiplied by anything, that is going to give me 0. So this entire term will be gone. And what we get is for counter flow heat exchanger also, the effectiveness value, that is equal to 1 minus e to the power minus NTU. So whenever we are using a condenser or a evaporator, you can either use parallel flow or counter flow, because for both the cases the effectiveness value is same, and the effectiveness value is 1 minus e to the power minus NTU. Similar thing we saw in case of LMTD analysis as well. For both the cases we were getting same logarithmic mean temperature difference. In case of parallel flow, counter flow, the LMTD value was same for condensers and evaporators. So you could use either parallel flow or you could use counter flow. Now we will move to the next slide. We will move to the second case. The second case is that of a typical regenerator. So we will see what a typical regenerator is. Generally, the fluids which will be flowing in the heat exchanger, the hot fluid and the cold fluid, generally both the fluids will be same. Consider the example of water. Generally, hot water will be used to cool down, or hot water will be used to heat up cold water. This kind of arrangement is common. So if both the fluids are water and water, this small CH value is specific heat capacity of the hotter fluid, that will be equal to specific heat of the colder fluid. Also, we maintain equal mass flow rates. So here MH value will be equal to MC value. This is the typical case. And such a type of heat exchanger or such a type of regenerator will be called as typical regenerator or typical heat exchanger. Here we can say that the product MHCH, this will be equal to MCCC. Or we can say that this capital CH value will be equal to capital CC value. Any doubt in this part, anyone? Guys, any doubt in this part?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So here we can say that Cmin value is equal to Cmax value. Or we can say that R value, the capacity ratio R, that will be equal to Cmin by Cmax, which is nothing but 1. So this R value will be equal to 1 for a typical regenerator. So if we are putting R equal to 1, we will see what happens to the effectiveness for both the cases. So consider the case of parallel flow heat exchanger. For a parallel flow heat exchanger, I'll just go back to the previous slide. This was the relation for parallel flow heat exchanger. What we need to do, we need to put R is equal to 1. So instead of this R, I can write 1. Instead of this R, I can write 1. So this becomes equal to 1 minus e to the power. What do we get on the exponent of e? What do we get to the power of e?
Minus 2 NTU.
Excellent. So minus 2 NTU. 1 minus e to the power minus 2 NTU divided by 1 plus 1, which is nothing but 2. So this is effectiveness for parallel flow heat exchanger when R value is equal to 1, or this is the effectiveness for typical regenerator. Here the same relation has been written. So effectiveness value is equal to 1 minus exponential minus 2 NTU divided by 2. Now we will be talking about counter flow heat exchanger. So this was the relation for counter flow heat exchanger. Here what we need to do, we need to put R is equal to 1. So if we put R is equal to 1, see what are we going to get? Putting R is equal to 1 here gives us exponential of minus NTU multiplied by 0, which is nothing but 1 minus exponential of 0, or it is 1 minus 1. Can we write like this? Yes or no? Should I repeat this part again?
Yes, sir. Repeat, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What?
Repeat.
Yeah. What we have R is equal to 1. We are going to put R is equal to 1 in the effectiveness relation. So this is the effectiveness value for counter flow heat exchanger. If we will be putting R is equal to 1, the numerator becomes 1 minus e to the power minus NTU multiplied by 1 minus 1, which is 0, divided by 1 minus 1 multiplied by e to the power. Again, in this case, we will be getting minus NTU multiplied by 0, which is nothing but 0. Now, e to the power 0 is equal to what? 1. So this becomes 1 minus 1. Sorry. Should I repeat again?
No, sir. No.
Okay. So it is 1 minus 1 divided by 1 minus 1, which is 0 by 0. So since we are getting 0 by 0, it means this is indeterminate form. So what should we do in such a case? Which rule are we going to use?
L'Hospital's rule.
L'Hospital's rule. So we are going to differentiate the numerator and the denominator. If you will differentiate the numerator side, see here what do we get? Differential of 1 will be equal to what? What is the differential of 1? Guys, anyone? 0.
0.
So differential of that portion is 1. And we need to differentiate minus e to the power minus NTU 1 minus r. So if you will differentiate that, it becomes, this is with a minus sign. So minus e to the power minus NTU 1 minus r multiplied by minus NTU whole divided by, again this denominator will be with a minus sign, and exponential of NTU 1 minus r multiplied by minus NTU minus 1. Here if you will put r is equal to 1, on putting r is equal to 1, we are going to get that this effectiveness relation, that is equal to NTU by 1 plus NTU. Now this is the effectiveness for a counter flow heat exchanger, and this is the effectiveness for a parallel flow heat exchanger. Now we will see why we have discussed this particular case. Say that we are using a heat exchanger of infinite size. So for an infinite size, can we say that area will be tending to infinity? Yes or no? Guys, yes or no? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are taking a heat exchanger of infinite size. For an infinite size heat exchanger, can we say that area is tending to infinity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now since area is tending to infinity, NTU is given by UA divided by C min. NTU is equal to UA divided by C minimum. U is overall heat transfer coefficient, A is area, and this is the minimum heat capacity. Since area is tending to infinity, this area is tending to infinity, NTU is also going to tend to infinity. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here what we get is, for a parallel flow, if we are using a heat exchanger of infinite size, this NTU term is going to be very high. If NTU is very high, if NTU is tending to infinite, we can say that effectiveness of this parallel flow heat exchanger, that will be equal to 1 minus e to the power minus 2 multiplied by infinity. So is that equal to minus infinity? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
e to the power minus infinity divided by 2. So e to the power infinity is equal to infinity. This becomes 1 minus e to the power minus infinity, which is 1 minus 1 by e to the power infinity divided by 2. We can write the same as 1 minus 1 by infinity, because e to the power plus infinity was infinity, whole divided by 2. Whole divided by 2. 1 by infinity is nothing but 0. So we get that this term is equal to, or epsilon for this parallel flow heat exchanger, this is equal to 1 by 2. The point of doing this, when we are putting this NTU tending to infinity, or when area is tending to infinity, we are getting that for a parallel flow heat exchanger, the effectiveness value will be tending to 1 by 2, or the effectiveness will be 50%. Is this part clear? Any doubt in this part? We will be making a discussion on the same later.
No
Any
doubt,
doubt in this part? Okay. Similarly, if I'm talking about a counter flow heat exchanger, say that area value is very high. If area value is very high, this NTU value is also going to be very high. Consider a large number. Say that we are taking 10,000, or take 10 to the power 5, 10 to the power 10, any large number like that. So this effectiveness will be 10 to the power 5 divided by 10 to the power 5 plus 1. And this value will be approximately equal to what?
1.
1. So here we conclude that if you have a counter flow heat exchanger and the size of the heat exchanger is very high, in that case the effectiveness value will be 100%. For a counter flow heat exchanger with infinite area, the effectiveness is going to be 100%. But for a parallel flow heat exchanger with infinite area, this effectiveness value is going to be 50% only. Is this part clear to all? Yes, no?
Sir.
Okay. So which heat exchanger are you going to use? Parallel flow or counter flow?
Counter flow.
Counter flow. Because for a parallel flow heat exchanger, the effectiveness value is always going to be lower. Same thing we saw in LMTD case also. We saw that LMTD for parallel flow heat exchanger, this will be lower than LMTD for counter flow heat exchanger. Thus, the area requirement for parallel flow heat exchanger for the same rate of heat transfer is always going to be greater than counter flow heat exchanger. So instead of using parallel flow, we are always going to use counter flow heat exchanger. So these counter flow heat exchangers are more common and are widely used. Any doubt in this part? Okay. We will move to the next
No, sir.
topic.
No.
Next topic is fouling factor. Now, if you will recall the relation for overall heat transfer coefficient, if you will recall this relation of overall heat transfer coefficient, which we had used in the numericals, so here two terms were coming. This is the first term, RFO. The second term, RFI. So these are called as fouling factors to the outside surface of the pipe or the tube, fouling factor to the inside surface of the pipe or tube. We will see what these fouling factors are. Say that you are using a tube. This is the tube through which some fluid is flowing. Now what is going to happen? Say the fluid flowing is water. So, and the tube is made up of steel. Is the water going to corrode steel? Can corrosion take place? Yes, no? Okay,
Yes, sir.
there is a chance that corrosion might take place, or some deposition over here on the tube might take place. Here on this side also some deposition might take place. Some fluid will be flowing on the outside surface of the pipe also. So on the other side also some deposition, scaling or rusting might take place. So since some deposition is taking place on both the sides of the pipe or the tube, the net resistance of the pipe is going to change, or the overall heat transfer coefficient is going to change. So in order to consider this deposition over here on the either sides of the tubes, we consider something which is called as fouling factor. So what we can do, we can add some resistance to the overall heat transfer coefficient value, and that accounts for this particular deposition. There can be various reasons for the deposition. One can be biological reason. For example, fungus or algae formation might be there. It is possible that rusting of the pipe has taken place, or we can say that corrosion has taken place. Or it is also possible that in the fluid which is flowing is carrying some impurities with it. And as the fluid flow takes place, these impurities deposit on the surface of the pipe. Deposition of those impurities has taken place over here, or sedimentation has taken place on the pipe. So in that case also, the overall heat transfer coefficient term is going to change. To account for this changed overall heat transfer coefficient, we consider two factors, and the factors are fouling factors on both the sides. Is this part clear to all? Any doubt in this part? Guys, any doubt in this part?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So here, from examination point of view, the definition of fouling factor is important. So just go through the definitions, and from numerical perspective, say that fouling factor has been given to you on any one of the sides. So while calculating the overall heat transfer coefficient, you need to substitute the value of fouling factor as well. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes or no? Guys, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So this was called as fouling factor. One more topic which we need to touch, that is correction factor. So till now, whatever heat exchanger we have considered, the heat exchanger was shell and tube heat exchanger. The heat exchanger was concentric tube heat exchanger. Suppose that the heat exchanger is shell and tube heat exchanger or cross flow type heat exchanger. What happens for such a case that we are going to see now? So for a parallel flow or counter flow heat exchanger, we are done with this derivation, that this theta m value is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2. In this case, this is the first pipe and this is the second pipe. One fluid will be flowing in the first pipe and the other fluid will be flowing in the outside pipe. The flow is something like this. The flow can either be in the same direction or it can be in the opposite direction. So for these cases, we get that theta m value is equal to this much. But generally, these type of heat exchangers will not be used. The heat exchangers which we are going to use, those will be shell and tube heat exchangers. So we will have a shell something like this. Inside the shell, we will have tubes and the tube will be going something like this. So if we are talking about this one, we will say that we have a single shell and we have 4 passes on the tube side. This is the first pass, second pass, third pass, and the fourth pass. You people remember this? We had discussed this while classifying heat exchangers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here we will say that for this particular heat exchanger, on the tube side, the number of passes are 4 and we have a single shell. Similarly, we can have 2 shells and we have 8 number of passes. We can have 2 shells, we can have 4 number of passes. So this data will be given in the problem, that what kind of heat exchanger are we using. Now, whenever the case will be of shell and tube heat exchanger, or whenever the case will be for cross flow heat exchanger, the relation remains the same. The relation will be theta m is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 theta 2. But what you need to do, you need to add a factor over there. That factor will be called as correction factor. So the rate of heat transfer will not be equal to UA multiplied by theta m. Instead, the rate of heat transfer will be UA theta m multiplied by a correction factor. That correction factor will be given by capital F. So we will go to the data handbook once and we will see how to find out this correction factor. So these are the pages from heat exchangers from the data handbook, CP Kothandaraman. Here the first relations are for LMTD. Here you can see that for the third relation they have given that for multi-pass and cross-flow heat exchanger, the rate of heat transfer capital Q, that is given by F multiplied by U multiplied by A multiplied by, just a minute, it is given by F multiplied by U multiplied by delta T Lm. It means it is UA theta m multiplied by the correction factor. On this side, you can see that they have written correction factor. F is correction factor. Is this part clear to all? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how to
Yes,
find
sir.
the correction factor? So for that, you need to go to the end pages of this particular topic. When you will keep on moving ahead, you will see a relation like this. The first relation is for correction factor for heat exchanger with one shell pass. It means we have a single shell and we have 2, 4 or multiple tube passes. what does it mean? So I'll just open Paint for you. So what we have a shell like this. We have a single shell, and in the shell, if they are saying 2 passes, it means the tubes are coming like this. This is the first pass, and this will be the second pass. This is what we mean by 2 passes. If they are saying single shell and 4 passes, it means first pass, second pass, third pass, and the fourth pass. So the fluid is going to move something like this. The fluid is going to move something like this. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, say that in this particular type of heat exchanger, one of the fluids is entering from this side. Consider that it is the hot fluid. So here we can write that this value is TH1 and this value is TH2. The other fluid is entering from this side in the shell. Now in the shell, the fluid moves something like this. You might have seen the animation also for this in the previous slides. So the fluid is entering like this. We will have baffle plates which guide the flow of fluid. So the fluid will be flowing like this, and ultimately it goes out of the shell in this direction. So this is the direction of flow for the cold fluid. Here you can see that inlet temperature can be written as TC1 and the outlet temperature will be written as TC2. Outlet temperature can be written as TC2. Now going back to the data handbook, here we have 2 different relations given to us. Is the page visible to all? Is this curve visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So here they have given you different temperatures. Here the first temperature is T1 and this temperature is T2. So it means they are saying that in the shell this hot fluid is flowing and over here the cold fluid is flowing. This is a small T1, a small T2, something like that. The opposite can also happen. Now whenever the case is given like this, on the y-axis they have written the values of correction factor, and we have 2 more values given to us. The first value is the ratio capital P. This capital P value is given by T2 minus T1 divided by capital T1 minus small t1. So if we will write the same in our words, I'll just take a snap of this and I will move to Paint. Just a minute. So this is the diagram. If we are talking about this particular relation, we can write the same as that. We can write the same that this is equal to small t2 means it is TC2. Small t2 means it is TC2 minus this is small t1, it means TC1. So this ratio is TC2 minus TC1 divided by capital T1 minus small t1, it means it is TH1 minus TC1. Is the ratio clear to all? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on the x-axis we have a ratio and the ratio is given by TC2 minus TC1 divided by TH1 minus TC1. Now here all the temperature values will be given to you. Since all the temperature values are given, or you might determine those values, you can find out this ratio on the x-axis. So I will assume that the value on the x-axis is known. Consider that it is equal to 0.4. Just assume that this ratio is equal to 0.4. Now we have one more ratio, and that ratio is given by capital R. This R value is equal to T1 minus T2, which is TH1 minus TH2 divided by small t2 minus small t1, which is TC2 minus TC1. Guys, mute the call. So TH1 minus TH2 by TC2 minus TC1. This is the value for this ratio R. Here all the temperature values will be known, so we can determine the R value as well. Assume that this value you are getting to be say 1.5. This value is 1.5. So what we need to do, we need to start from this particular point. I'll just choose a red pen. We need to start from this particular point 0.4. We need to go up till the curve for 1.5. So 1.5 is somewhere over here. 1.5 is somewhere over here. So we are going to draw a line up till that particular curve. Wherever is the point of intersection of the two curves, go in this particular direction, and over here you can find out the value of capital F. So for this particular case, capital F value will be equal to say around 0.78 or closer to 0.8. Is this part clear to all? How to find out the value of correction factor? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was the first case. Similarly, we can have a heat exchanger with 2 shell passes and 4, 8 or multiple number of tube passes. So instead of a single shell, we are using 2 different shells. So if the number of shells is 1, you need to refer to this particular chart. If the number of shells is 2, you need to refer to this particular chart. Similarly, if the type of flow, that is cross flow or a cross flow heat exchanger has been given to you, you need to refer to this particular chart. So there are 3 different charts. Using those 3 charts, you can find out the value of correction factor and just put the value of F in the formula and you will get the rate of heat transfer. Any doubt in this part now?
No, sir.
Okay. So we are done with correction factor. We'll just discuss one more question in today's class and rest we will cover up in the next class. We will have one more class for heat exchangers. That will be the last class for us.
Sir?
Yeah.
There is another chart there, sir. That is not important, sir.
Just
For
let me go back. Which chart? The chart after this effectiveness chart?
Yes, sir, that one.
This effectiveness chart is not important because you will be calculating effectiveness with the relation which we have derived earlier. Here, if you will see the
No,
values,
sir, not
then
the left side one.
this one, cross flow one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, see, one chart is for mixed stream and the other chart is for unmixed stream. For a cross flow heat exchanger, I'll just go to paint, just a minute. For a cross flow heat exchanger, the flow might take place like this. This is one of the fluids, and the other fluid will be flowing in this direction. So this means this is unmixed stream. Both the streams are flowing properly. Or we can have one more case. One fluid can be flowing like this. This is the first flow, and the second flow might be like this. This. So if we are talking about the difference between both the cases, in the first case, what is happening? The hot stream is flowing in a single direction. There is no mixing of hot streams over there. The hot stream is taking a well-defined path. Similarly, the cold stream is taking a well-defined path. And the direction of flow of both the fluids, that is perpendicular to each other. Hence, we are going to call this one as cross flow heat exchanger. And in this case, there is no mixing of streams. This mixing is not there. When we are talking about mixing in cross flow, it means mixing of streams of the same kind. This mixing is not taking place. This mixing is not taking place. But when we are moving to the second case, what is happening? The hot fluid that is moving in a random fashion. So this might be a case of turbulent flow, or wherever the streams are mixing with each other. So in this case, the hot stream is also mixing and the cold stream is also mixing. If we will go back to the data handbook, this is what they have written over here. So the first one is, this is for a single pass cross flow heat exchanger, and one fluid is mixed and the other one is unmixed. Are you getting this part? One of the fluid that is moving in a straight path and the other one that is mixing while it is moving in its particular path. But for the second case, for this particular case, they are saying that both of them are unmixed. Are the cases clear to you now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you will see the diagram, here they have mentioned a representation also. Can you see the grid lines over here? The grid lines which have been drawn? Yes,
Yes, sir.
no? Okay. The
Yes,
grid
sir.
lines are indicating that we have a well-defined path over there. Both the fluids are going to take those straight line paths and they are not going to mix among each other. Here in this case, you are not going to see any grid line. This grid line is missing over here. So we can assume that here we don't have any well-defined path and mixing might take place. Is that clear enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So depending upon what case has been given, you are going to use the relation for, you are going to use the chart for correlation factor. Sorry, correction factor. Now, we will just see this numerical over here and we will end the class. So here we have 16.5 kg per second of a particular product. It is at a temperature 650 degrees Celsius in a chemical plant, is used to heat some other fluid. So the first fluid is used to heat the second fluid. It means which is the hotter one, the first one or the second one?
First one, sir.
First one is the hotter one. So we can say that whatever is this value given, this is the MH value. This is the inlet temperature of that particular fluid. So we can say that this is TH1 value. It is used to heat up another fluid at this rate. So this is MC1 value. Incoming at 100 degrees Celsius. So this is TC1 value. This is the data given in the question. Heat capacities, sorry, specific heat for both the fluids have been given. So we have a small cc value and we have a small ch value. This is the data given in the question. So one fluid is entering at a particular temperature, at a particular mass flow rate with a particular specific heat. It is used to heat up another fluid at this much mass flow rate, entering at this temperature and with this much specific heat. If the overall heat transfer coefficient is this much, so they are giving you the value of capital U and the surface area installed, that is 44 meters square. So they are giving you capital A value as well. Find the outlet temperatures for the fluid. So we will see what is the data given and what are the unknown values. So in the question, they are giving you MH value, MC value. MH is given to you. MC is given to you. Small ch is given and small cc is given. They are giving you inlet temperatures TH1 and TC1. So TH1 and TC1 has been given and they are giving you capital U and area values. So capital U is given and area is given. Now what are the unknown values? What things you have to determine? So you have to find out TH2. This TH2 is not known and this TC2 is also not known. You have to find out both the outlet temperatures. These outlet temperatures, ask.
Sir, capital U is 0.95, no, sir?
Sorry, capital U is 0.95. Yeah, correct.
But in the data, it's 1.2.
Sorry?
In data, it's written 1.2, no, sir?
Okay, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. I have taken a snapshot from a PDF, so this would be a mistake. You can correct that. I'll just check the solution once. Here, this value they have taken wrong. This is not 1.2. This will be 0.95. This will be 0.95. In the later part, when they are using it for the solution, they have put the correct value that NTU is equal to 0.95 multiplied by something. Is this part clear? Nice observation. Should we move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have to find out TH2 value and we have to find out TC2 value. These two values have not been given, and these two values have to be determined for two different cases. First is for parallel flow heat exchanger and the second is for counter flow heat exchanger. We will see how to find out these temperature values. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, generally whenever two temperature values are unknown, if any of the two temperature values are unknown, the question is related to NTU and effectiveness method. The question can be solved more easily using this method, using NTU effectiveness method. How to use the method? First thing, you have to find out effectiveness of the heat exchangers using the formula given in the data handbook. So for finding out effectiveness of any heat exchanger, we need two values. First value is NTU and the second value is R. NTU is number of transfer units. It is given by UA by C min, UA by C minimum, and this R value, this is equal to C min by C max. So before we can start with the solution, we also have to determine that what is C min value and what is C max value. So we are going to find that first of all. Here we can find the value of capital CH and capital CC. CH value is mass flow rate multiplied by specific heat. CC value is again mass flow rate multiplied by specific heat for the cold fluid. So we are getting that capital CH is 58.6 and capital CC is 86.1. Make sure that you are not committing any mistake in putting the units. So here, which one is the maximum value, CH or CC?
CC is maximum, sir.
CC is maximum. So we can give it an annotation that this is C max and this value is C minimum. So since we have the value for C minimum and C maximum, we can find out the capacity ratio. So this capacity ratio R will be equal to C min by C max, and this is equal to 58.6 divided by 86.1. So we are done with the R value. We are getting that R is equal to 0.68. Similarly, we can find out NTU as well. NTU is number of transfer units. It is equal to UA by C min. So U value is 0.95. U value is equal to 0.95. Area value is 44. It is given in the question. And C min we have determined over here, that is 58.6. So we are getting that NTU is equal to 0.71. Now, if we will go to the effectiveness relation for counter flow heat exchanger, this relation you can get in the data handbook as well. So for a counter flow heat exchanger, effectiveness is equal to 1 minus e to the power minus NTU 1 minus R divided by 1 minus R e to the power minus NTU 1 minus R. Here we have calculated the value of NTU and capital R, so we can find out the effectiveness for this particular case. Any doubt till this part?
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
So
sir.
we get that effectiveness for counter flow, that is equal to 0.443. Note that for a parallel flow arrangement, effectiveness is not going to be the same. For a parallel flow arrangement, this effectiveness relation is different. It is not the same. Can anyone tell me for parallel flow, effectiveness will be greater than 0.443 or smaller than this?
Smaller than that, sir.
No, sir.
Good. For parallel flow, effectiveness value is always going to be smaller. So here effectiveness is 0.443. This relation or this value of effectiveness has been determined by the relation given in the data handbook. Also, we know one more relation for effectiveness, and that relation is effectiveness is given by Q actual divided by Q max. You people remember this relation? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now
Yes,
for
sir.
Q actual, we have different relations. For Q actual, either we can use CH TH1 minus TH2, or we can use TC TC2 minus TC1. We can use any of these two relations. What about Q max? What is Q max equal to? What is the relation for Q max?
C min.
TH1 minus TC1, sir.
Sorry.
CH into TH1 minus TC1.
Okay. Always CH, or we should write something else.
C min, sir.
Instead
C
of
min,
writing
yes, sir.
CH, we can write C min multiplied by
TH1 minus TC1.
TH1 minus TC1. So this is the relation for Q max. What we can do, we can substitute both the relations. So here we have put the formula for effectiveness. The first formula is rate of heat transfer. We are taking the rate of heat transfer as CH, TH1 minus TH2, and maximum rate of heat transfer has been taken as C minimum multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. Now if you will see this relation, CH value is known to us, C minimum value is known to us, both are same actually. TH1 value is known to us, TH1 value is known to us, TC1 value is known to us. This TH2 is an unknown value. Effectiveness value we have already determined. So in this equation, TH2 is the only unknown. So can we find the value of TH2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this, we can find the value of TH2. Also, instead of using this relation, CH, TH1 minus TH2 for actual rate of heat transfer, we could go for one more relation. That relation was CC, TC2 minus TC1. And Qmax relation remains the same. That is C minimum multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. In this expression also, effectiveness value is known, CC is known, C minimum is known, TC1 inlet temperature for the cold fluid is known, TH1, TC1 is known. So here TC2 is the only unknown. Using this, can we find the value of TC2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this way we have determined the value of TH2 and TC2 for counterflow heat exchanger. This is for counterflow because the effectiveness term was for counterflow. This effectiveness was determined for counterflow. This relation is for counterflow arrangement. So can we do the same method for parallel flow arrangement as well? Yes, no? Okay. So if we will go for parallel flow arrangement, again we need to go to the data handbook. We need to check the relation for effectiveness for parallel flow arrangement. So the relation is this. This is the relation for parallel flow arrangement. Effectiveness is equal to 1 minus exponential minus NTU 1 plus R whole divided by 1 plus R. NTU value is known to us, R value is known to us. So we have determined the effectiveness for this case. Here you can see that this effectiveness is 0.415, and for the previous case, the effectiveness value is 0.443. So here also you can notice that for counter flow effectiveness is higher, for parallel flow effectiveness is lower. Once we get the effectiveness value, we can again put it in the equation that effectiveness is equal to CC, TC2 minus TC1 by C min TH1 minus TC1. From here we can find the value of TC2, or instead of using this relation, we could go for the relation effectiveness is equal to CH, TH1 minus TH2, TH1 minus TH2 divided by, on the denominator side we have Q max, so that will be C minimum multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. In this expression, TH2 will be the only unknown. So using this, we can find the value of TH2. So any doubt in the problem? Anyone? Is the numerical clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.